Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Cage. I'm your host, Jim Graham, and joining me on the line, I have a special guest. He is a Glory kickboxer and a Bellator MMA fighter. He is Stitch 'em Up Joe Schilling. And Joe, thanks for joining me on Beyond the Cage.
Oh, no problem, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Your last fight was the main event of Glory 24 in Denver, Colorado against Jason Wilnis. A very close fight, very entertaining fight after 2 rounds. It didn't go to a third round due to an injury by Jason Wilnis. It looked like he had a broken toe there at the end of the fight. And were you kind of surprised that it didn't go to a third round there, Joe?
I was surprised that he stopped the fight after the second round. Professional kickboxing, breaking toes is pretty standard and unfortunately part of the sport. I've never had anybody quit a fight because their foot hurt in a kickboxing match before, so I was surprised. But I thought that the fight was really one-sided, and I think it wasn't going to go any better for him for the third round.
Now, of course, the fight was supposed to be Art and Levin. Of course, that got canceled. You fought Jason Wilnis instead. After the fight, you kind of went on to say that you thought Levin maybe kind of scared you, and he's not really looking forward to rubber bands against you. Are you still very hopeful that you can get that third fight with Art and Levin?
Yeah, it was the reason I fought Jason Wilnis was originally supposed to be Artem, and he pulled out of the fight 6 or 7 weeks ahead of time, and that he was a replacement. So, now it's like because he got injured and Jason took his place, all of a sudden it seems like I have to re-earn a shot at the title, and I was already number one contender before that. So hopefully it happens this year, or in December, even for their next fight in Amsterdam would be great.
All right, of course, like you said, you'd like a fight with Art and Levin for the Glory Middleweight Championship, but if a fight can't materialize between Levin, would you be willing to take on anyone in particular in the middleweight division for Glory?
Anybody that's like, top 2, top 3. Simon Marcus has been the number 1 guy, number 2 guy. It's been me, Simon Marcus, and Art and Levin have been the top 3 guys in the world for the last 3 years probably. And, I would love to fight another elite high-level guy, at State Shark. So Simon Marcus or Philippe Verlinden, and, the fights in Amsterdam, and fighting another Dutch guy would be good too.
Now, of course, as I mentioned, Glory 24 was in Denver, Colorado. And did you notice the elevation affecting you at all in your fight against Wilnis?
I worked a lot here in LA with Nick Curson, my strength and conditioning coach, and we did a lot of hypoxic training. I also have a hypoxic tent that I sleep in at home, so I think that helped out a lot. But no, it was definitely a factor. I think it was a factor for everybody on the card. You could see it. The guys in the back were talking about it, and it definitely felt different than what we were used to. But I think I was well prepared for it.
Now, of course, the heavyweight tournament for the next number 1 contender for Glory happened in Denver, Colorado at Glory 24 as well. And before you went out for the main event, did you get to watch any of the heavyweight action there for Glory?
I walked out of the dressing room. I was staged to be next, and I sat down and watched, I think, the last 2 rounds of the heavyweight contender fight. I thought it was a really close fight. I thought it should have been an extra round, but I thought it was a good fight.
Now, of course, Bellator, along with Glory, held their first ever Dynamite card just about a month ago. Unfortunately, you weren't able to go following your loss against Cato. And I was wondering, even though you didn't get to compete at Dynamite, what did you actually think about the event?
I thought it was great. I was disappointed that my friend King Mo got injured and couldn't fight in the final. But I thought it was a great event. I think it's a really exciting idea for those kinds of events, and I think it's going to be a really big thing in the future.
Of course, you didn't fight at this Dynamite event, but it looks as though that they're going to have another one probably sometime next year. If and when they do, is that something you want to do, fight on the next Dynamite card?
I think if there's another belt, Dynamite event, I'll definitely be headlining the kickboxing, like I was supposed to be on this last one, for sure. And I think it's awesome. I think it's great for the sport of kickboxing to be broadcasted and shown to the same MMA fans, and I think it's great to promote kickboxing to MMA fans and vice versa. It's a super show to have two completely different, exciting combat sports on the same venue is insane. It's a great idea by Scott Coker.
In a few weeks here, Bellator will have a fight headlined by Melvin Manhoef against Cato, both guys you have fought previously. And I was wondering, because of your familiarity with both fighters, what do you think is going to happen in that fight?
I think Cato will take him down, and or Melvin will knock him out. I think that's the way that usually goes. I don't really have an opinion on the fight. I think it's cool.
Sticking with Bellator for just a moment here, Joe, when do you think your next Bellator fight will actually be?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I imagine it'll be in the next couple of months. So I think if I don't end up getting on the Glory card in Holland, I'll probably be fighting December or January for Bellator.
Is there anyone in particular, Joe, that you would like to fight next for your next Bellator fight?
I hadn't really thought about it. I've never been one to pick my opponents with MMA, especially, Scott Coker and Rich Chow do the matchmaking. I think the fight's big at me, obviously, so, I hadn't really put much behind anybody in the middleweight division.
Jim Graham talking with Bellator and Glory kickboxer, stitch him up, Joe Schilling. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe Schilling 187. And Joe, I want to move on and talk about one of your friends and training partners, Nick Diaz. Of course, Nick Diaz has had his battle with the Nevada State Athletic Commission right now. And just about a week ago, the UFC announced that they're going to lend Nick Diaz their lawyers there in Nevada in his fight against the Nevada State Athletic Commission. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the UFC kind of finally helping out Nick Diaz in his fight.
I think that's cool if that's what's going on. I hadn't heard that. That's news to me. But, I think it's a smart thing for the UFC to protect one of their biggest stars. And I think if you're going to get, I think that's a pretty easy case to donate your law firm to. It's not like it's a pretty wide open case. I think there's, Nick's law firm on their own can win that case. And I think it's the whole situation really doesn't make any sense. But that's great that the UFC wants to help them out.
Also, continuing on with Nick Diaz, there was a White House petition to try to overturn the Nevada State Athletic Commission's ruling. The petition reached its goal of signatures just a few days ago, and I was wondering what you thought of the fan support taking the time out of their busy lives and going out and filling out that White House petition.
I'm not surprised by it. I think it's great. The overall, the amount of support he's gotten has been really awesome. And, Cher did a thing about it. There's been a lot of people paying attention and giving it a lot of support. So I think that's great, and it's great for the sport. It's great that that's when people get behind something and a movement kind of starts. People start all getting behind one thing. That's when things change. I think that ultimately Nick's going to win this case, and the idiots that are running the Nevada Athletic Commission will be cleaned out. Somebody else will take over it. Ultimately, they won't test for marijuana anymore because it's so ridiculous. And, the sport will be better off because of it. It's just unfortunate that it happened to Nick now and that it's becoming such a big annoyance. But I think ultimately he'll win, and it'll be one more thing better in the sport because Nick Diaz is a part of it.
Now, of course, one thing I wanted to ask you with your background in doing MMA and kickboxing, that is, besides wrestling, what to you is the biggest difference between stepping into the kickboxing ring and stepping into the cage for MMA?
I think it's much more than just the wrestling. I think that your reaction and your instincts is completely backwards a lot in kickboxing versus MMA. So it's been a tough transition. It's a lot of fun, but it's a completely different sport. And the movement, the reaction, the things that you do instinctually are very different. So 100% different sport.
Now, of course, you wear different gloves when you're doing kickboxing and MMA, the 4-ounce gloves for MMA, and obviously the traditional boxing gloves there for kickboxing and Glory. And does the size difference change your game plan at all?
No, I mean, I feel that same way when I put on boxing gloves. I don't think that. I think defensively, it's different. The way you can open your hand is different. The way you land punches is different. The surface of your hand that you hit when if you hit you put boxing gloves on and you hit pads, you hit hard. And then you take off boxing gloves and you put on MMA gloves and you hit pads and you hit hard. So you're gonna hurt your hand. It's gonna feel completely different. It's gonna be different, very different. But as far as the amount of damage that can inflict, I don't feel that much difference on it.
Now, of course, you fought all over in your career, not just in kickboxing, but in MMA as well. And is there any place in particular that you haven't fought yet that you would like to in the future?
Yeah, Amsterdam. I think Holland and Amsterdam would be the place I really wanted to fight. Kickboxing is so huge over there, and the crowds that come out for that and their understanding of the sport is just way different over there. So I would love to fight over there. That would be a nice place to be.
All right, Joe, I'll get you out of here with this. Of course, I mentioned Nick Diaz, but now I'll mention his brother Nate, who has a big fight coming up here in December for the UFC against Michael Johnson. And I was wondering what you thought about Nate Diaz going up against Michael Johnson in a few weeks here.
I think Nate can beat anybody in the world on any given night. So I think Nate has great chances for that. I've been talking with him a little bit. I think we're going to train together here real soon for that fight. So, I think Nate for that fight all the way at some point.
He is Stitch Him Up Joe Schilling. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe Schilling187. And Joe, thanks a lot for coming on the show. I really appreciate it and look forward to your next fight, whether it's in Glory or Bellator.
Thanks, Jim.
Once again, that was Stitch Him Up Joe Schilling right here on Beyond the Cage.